What we are observing right now is de facto annexation in the occupied West Bank.
So Mehdi Hasan just interviewed UNRWA's outgoing Commissioner General Philip Lazzarini, and this is absolutely crucial timing. We're getting unprecedented confirmation of Israel's systematic annexation strategy from the UN's top Palestinian refugee official. This isn't activist rhetoric. This is documented institutional analysis. Let's break this down.
In Gaza, we have a ceasefire, but it's a ceasefire by name.
Do you see Israel doing to Lebanon what it has done to Gaza?
He's absolutely right about this ceasefire being fictional. Since January 19th, Israel has conducted over 40 airstrikes in Gaza, killed dozens of Palestinians, and blocked humanitarian aid convoys. Meanwhile, they're openly discussing doing to Lebanon exactly what Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich said, making Beirut look like Khan Yunis.
The entire neighborhood could be reduced in rubble the same way it has been in Gaza. International law is still here, it's still very robust. The only thing is that it is under assault.
That's the exact quote from Israeli National Security Minister Ben Gvir. He literally said, Beirut should look like Khan Yunis. This isn't speculation, it's stated policy. What makes this terrifying is that international law mechanisms like the ICC and ICJ are functioning, but enforcement depends on political will that simply doesn't exist.
The situation in the West Bank is absolutely appalling. We have settler violence, which is completely unleashed. We have seen an acceleration also of the settlement expansion, and thousands of Palestinian refugees have also been displaced because of security operation taking place by the Israeli army. That's certainly been the biggest displacement since 1967.
This is the largest displacement since Israel's 1967 occupation began. We're witnessing textbook ethnic cleansing, destroying Palestinian homes, expanding settlements, and forcing population transfer. The UN documented over 1,200 Palestinian structures demolished in 2024 alone. This isn't random violence, it's systematic territorial conquest disguised as security operations.
If you look at the situation in Gaza, we have a ceasefire, but it's a ceasefire by name. Life there is still extraordinarily miserable. We have the entire population concentrated in half the strip of Gaza, and basically they are lacking of everything, and they're also in a survival mode.
The numbers are staggering. 2.3 million people crammed into roughly 140 square miles, making Gaza one of the world's most densely populated areas. This concentration isn't accidental. It's designed to make Palestinian life unsustainable, forcing emigration and clearing the territory. Classic colonial displacement strategy executed with modern precision.
I think what we are observing right now is de facto annexation in the occupied West Bank. So I would very much concur with such a report.
This is huge. De facto annexation means taking control without formal declaration. Israel controls Palestinian water, electricity, movement, and land use while expanding settlements. It's annexation in practice while maintaining plausible deniability. Having the UN's top Palestinian refugee official confirm this publicly destroys Israel's legal cover completely.
Well, obviously, I was surprised that the U.S. official would say that, because the way he was saying this, that means he's also endorsing some of the, I would say, land expansion aspiration that some Israeli political leader have. But we have seen over the last few years a land grabbing and expansion, not only in the Gaza Strip, but also in the West Bank. We have seen it also in Syria, and we see it right now in Lebanon. And most of the time, it is under the argument of creating a buffer zone.
He's referring to the Greater Israel ideology that spans from the Nile to the Euphrates River. Netanyahu literally displayed a map at the UN showing no Palestinian territories. The buffer zone argument is classic imperial expansion. Russia used it for Ukraine, China for Tibet. It's territorial conquest disguised as defensive necessity.
I don't think that the intention ultimately will be to replace the UN, but I described it as a dark day because it was also the day the UN Security Council somehow has given up in one of its key prerogatives, being promoting peace and security, to an entity at that time.
Trump's Abraham Accords Board of Peace included Netanyahu while he was committing war crimes. The absurdity is staggering, putting an active war criminal on a peace board while the UN Security Council abdicated its responsibility. It's like appointing an arsonist as fire chief while the fire department watches buildings burn.
And lastly, also, Mehdi, we keep hearing about people talking about the old order has gone, international law has gone, but in reality, international law is still here, it's still very robust. The only thing is that it is under assault, it's violated most of the time, but the good thing is that thanks to the fact that we have international law, we can name breaches and we can act. The alternative would be a total disaster, would mean disorder, would mean the law of the jungle, because it would mean that we would not regulation, in fact.
Exactly right. The ICC issued arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant. The ICJ is hearing the genocide case, and over 140 countries recognize Palestinian statehood. International law isn't dead, it's being systematically ignored by those with power. But the legal framework for accountability exists and is actively being used.
Our staff has paid a huge toll. And it has also culminated, as you mentioned, by the extraordinary assault on our headquarters in East Jerusalem, an assault where basically members of the government, lawmaker, came in a jubilatory atmosphere, disputing in front of cameras, trying to find out who should take credit of the storming, demolition, and burning of the headquarters in East Jerusalem, which shows an extraordinary disdain for international organization and international law.
This was unprecedented in UN history. Israeli Knesset members literally celebrated on camera while UN facilities burned. Government officials taking selfies during the destruction of international humanitarian infrastructure. It's not just attacking UNRWA, it's attacking the entire concept of international humanitarian protection with impunity.
Well, on the second question, the investigation concluded already in July 2024. You might remember that the investigation was inconclusive for 9 people, and the investigation also indicated that for the other 9 people, there was absolutely no element. So, but since there have been number of allegation of infiltration, for which I have constantly requested the government of Israel to provide additional information in order to allow the agency to undertake investigation, but we never ever received any information of this nature. And as you said, many of these allegations have been debunked.
The investigation completely debunked Israel's allegations. Of 18 accused staff members, 9 were cleared entirely and 9 were inconclusive due to lack of evidence. Israel refused to provide any supporting documentation despite repeated requests, yet the US still suspended funding based on these fabricated claims.
I mean, with the statu quo, the agency cannot survive. But this is also the reason why I have addressed, in fact, today the General Assembly, telling the member state that it is absolutely critical that the operation space of UNRWA be safeguarded in the occupied Palestinian territory, that we be considered as an asset for the success of any genuine peace plan, and for the time being, for the success of the implementation of Resolution 2803. Now, if we are considered as an asset by the international community, that means UNRWA can play a meaningful role, and under these circumstances, the funding certainly would come back.
UNRWA runs the entire Palestinian education system, healthcare network, and social services. They employ 30,000 people and serve 5.9 million Palestinian refugees. You cannot implement any peace agreement without these institutions intact. Destroying UNRWA means destroying Palestinian civil society entirely, which is exactly the point.
And if we fail, it will further undermine the future aspiration of the Palestinians for self-determination. Hence, that the importance for the agency to be part of a political process.
This is the core strategy. Eliminate Palestinian institutions, education, healthcare, and identity markers. UNRWA represents Palestinian national continuity across generations. Destroying it erases the refugee right of return and effectively ends Palestinian claims to statehood. It's institutional genocide designed to eliminate a people's future.
And I would say that the blatant disregard of international law, the cycle of total impunity, are certainly foster a behavior where we think that basically we can do whatever we want. And today we are indeed confronted to a new war in the region, which with devastating consequences, for which it seems to be in contradiction with the UN Charter.
Gaza became the template for total impunity. When you can commit genocide live streamed to the world with zero consequences, it signals that international law is optional for powerful allies. Russia watched this carefully before escalating in Ukraine. Iran is now calculating the same cost-benefit analysis.